with Gina.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, first and foremost, it finally hit me, and it should have much earlier. You said Randy is not exactly a fighter's name. His last name is Couture.
I know.
He should have been a fashion designer.
He sounds
Randy
like
Couture.
a horny gay designer out of Perry. Yeah.
It sounds like a spoof name. Yet he's one of the strongest men ever.
It's like Bobby Trendy. It's like a name that it's not real.
Yeah, it's like from SNL, Randy Couture. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I know. I saw your face change when I said Couture. And how do you spell his name in Couture? The thing.
Well, the made to order fashion, made to measure fashion. I think it's
Couture like
Couture.
Yeah, well,
the same.
They're spelled the same. Is that a term? It's not a brand name. It's like a term for fashion or custom fashion.
Couture is like a made to measure garment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
bespoke.
It's amazing.
Right.
It's perfect.
Randy Couture.
So that's so fantastic. Hurricane Laura, it has now come.
Max Pata
and
just told me his middle name is Bottoms. It's Randy Bottoms Couture. I did not know that's a unique. Well, probably his grandparents or something.
Yeah.
No wonder he had to become a fighter.
Yeah.
So Hurricane Laura was so terrifying, especially the lead up to it, that experts were literally using the word, and I've never heard this in terms of weather before. They were calling it unsurvivable. And there were even authorities who said, if you're not obeying the evacuation orders, do us a favor, write your name on a piece of paper with your social security number, your address, and your next of kin, put it in a Ziploc bag, and put it in your pocket, because that's how you'll be identified. We hope it doesn't come to that.
I, for one, was delighted that this hurricane had made to shore, because I turned on CNN, and for the first time in 5 months, it was not that grim death toll from COVID-19 or Trump is doing battle with Russia or whatever. It was just weather. It was a weather event. Like it's sadly, it was so refreshing just to see the footage of the guy. It wasn't, they burnt down the Winnebago dealership over another racially based cop shooting or something. It was just, there's something, it's an act of God versus, I'm going to burn down a Toyota dealership. Like it was kind of like, geez, and there's guys standing out there, and the wind's blowing, and I'm like, that's what when I used to turn on CNN, that's what I would picture. Yeah, and it was
good old days.
It was kind of nice to get back to that for a second.
Back to basics, back to force majeure.
To basics.
Well, I thought about that during the RNC. Now, I know that a lot of prep goes into the scripts, and I know that, you kind of stay the course, but I thought to myself, will it be a big tell whether it's been pre-taped if they don't refer to Hurricane Laura? Because that's going to hit shore. They're calling it unsurvivable. There's a lot of people down there that I would imagine possibly vote conservatively or vote Republican. And if it's not mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and assume that it was pre-taped. That was just my theory. But it did slam southern Louisiana early Thursday as a Category 4 storm. It was one of the most powerful to strike the Gulf Coast in decades. The storm made landfall at 1 a.m. near Cameron, Louisiana, about 35 miles east of the Texas border. And that wasn't it. I don't know if you saw this footage or read about this, but downtown Lake Charles, Louisiana, took a heavy hit. Tons of destruction, roofs peeled off, buildings destroyed, windows blown out, and an industrial plant that makes chlorine-based products got lit on fire. So the smoke and the toxic nature of that was also a huge problem, sending smoke throughout the area. That's why they had people shelter in place again, because of this toxic, noxious smoke.
Once again, fire started by a storm versus the angry mob that hit the street. I've still felt better about it.
Yeah.
Are we still dealing with our wildfires out here?
Oh, yeah. We have, I think we're at 1.4 million acres burned so far this year, as opposed to a couple 100,000 or maybe not even that much last year.
One of my favorite parts about any Superman movie or any kind of thing like that, or cartoons that I would watch, like an Aquaman kind of thing, would be, it wouldn't be Aquaman putting out the fire. it would be like fires on the West Coast, storms on the East Coast, and then he would direct the storm to put the fire out. So there'd be something where all the wind and the rain, it'd be like, shh, and he'd like push it over and all the fires are gone. There's something always tantalizing about not you just go put the fire out, but you redirect this thing.
Right.
So right now they're being buried with water. We're over here dry as a tinderbox burning down. And they're both extreme bads. But if we use the one on the other, they would avoid the water. We need the water. I don't know. It was one of those Saturday morning cartoon kind of fantasies. And
if that didn't work, we could always get Superman to blow on a lake and fly it on over.
That's how he did it in the movie. That's right.
Yeah, frozen disc style. So that blew over. It reached 150 miles an hour wind. There was footage. I don't know if you saw it. I didn't pull it just because it's 3 seconds, but of an RV just being capsized by the wind.
Well, RV. The thing about an RV is, you drive an RV down the freeway and there's 35 mile an hour gusts and you'll go into the next lane. Also, it is amazing how powerful wind is and what it does. I mean, I don't want to sound like a superstitious native, but I mean, again, watching one of those big transport airplanes load up a bunch of Army tanks and just take off down the runway. I mean, it's crazy what that is doing, what's going on the wing of that airplane. I mean, it is taking M1 Abrams tanks, I think 6 of them on some of those planes. One of those things weighs as much as 40 SUVs, and it just right into the yonder.
Glides on up.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to our primitive brains. It's
right.
Like, what?
But
we're not supposed to be up there.
But it is
with that stuff.
It is a crazy powerful force. All right.
Well,
sorry, what else?
And it's funny because coming from being born, or not born, but being here's the RV just kind of going over on its side. He's going to show it to you. It does take a while, and the wind just whips it. The wind just whips it over. Being born or being raised actually in Tornado Alley, you'd think I'd have a better understanding. But it's still very hard for me. As many tornadoes as I've experienced and seen, it's still hard for me to wrap my brain around wind being able to lift a human, being able to lift a car. It's just wind. And then you see that shit, and it's hard to wrap your mind around.
Took Dorothy's whole house.
Yeah.
That's right.
I wonder how helpfully technology is saving structures, because they did not even have hurricane straps back in the day. Like, stuff wasn't, the notion of metal straps and hangers and clips. So you have to picture, when I got into construction, barely was there any straps. So what I'm saying is you'd frame the walls, and then you'd put the roof rafters on top of the walls. And where the roof rafter went over the top of the framed wall, you just put a nail in at an angle. Just hold it down. Like, it was literally called toenailing. You just put a nail there. And if you think about it, if you stood up on that wall and grabbed that rafter, you could lift it up and just pop it off. It was just nailed to it. Well, now, if you go down the Home Depot, you go down the right aisle of Home Depot, you will see 4-foot-long Simpson straps with 150 nail holes in it that would go right over the top of your roof and strap each side. Like, when you build stuff now, a huge part of it is strapping and hanging. So the difference between the hanger now, or I should say the ceiling joist and or the rafter that going over the top of the wall, is it wouldn't be just nailed, which nails have almost no pull-out strength. They're not like a screw. They're just sort of pull out. They don't have that sort of fish hook barb or anything on. They just slide out. They slide in. They slide off. Now it's a clip, or a Tico clip, a joist hanger, whatever, a strap, and they just strap the shit out of everything. It does not come apart like it used to. And they figured out a lot of stuff with venting and stuff, like letting the air pass through and leave through the ridge or whatever. Wow. So hopefully technology saved a lot of these structures. But yes.
And then you think, we were talking about this on the Conway show last night, where, you think this is so horrible, and it is. It's devastating and horrific. But think if we in California got that kind of warning for an earthquake. Not 10 and a half seconds and, go find a doorway, but like, hey, tomorrow around 1 a.m., you're not going to want to be in your house because an earthquake's coming. Like, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
We should work on that.
I was thinking about Los Angeles and earthquakes and whatever, and then I was also kind of picturing the homeless population. And if you think about places that have these hurricanes or tornadoes or these big time events, big ice storms and stuff like that. Right. There's a kind of imperative with the mayor of the city, which is we got to put these homeless people somewhere. Like, we have to go scoop them up. Like, they cannot, can't just live outside during a 1 week long ice storm or tornado or whatever. You can't do it. If there's an earthquake, your best bet is to be outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so
maybe not under an overpass, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, and even then, today it's probably safe, pretty safe place to be. So if you think about the imperative of a natural event and sort of who's it going to hit first, and that'll be the homeless people, and what are we going to do? Well, L.A. doesn't really have any of those events. The only event we have is an earthquake, and that doesn't mean anyone has to move anywhere. People during earthquakes oftentimes go outside. There'll be people scared to go back in their house and that kind of thing. But I do think a good weather event probably does for the homeless population in your city what a good party does for your house once a year. As I've always said, like, hey, man, once a year, throw a party. It forces you to go around and sort of take care of shit you didn't want to take care of and clean stuff up and put stuff away. Like, you just go right into that. Everyone's coming over for Thanksgiving. Those boxes that were by the front door that we're going to give away to Goodwill for 9 months, they're going this weekend.
Get it
done. You know what I mean? So maybe be curious how it worked, but in cities that have floods and hurricanes and ice storms and stuff like that, if it's like once a year or once every 3 years or whatever, it's going to force you to go, we got to get the homeless, we got to put them somewhere, we got to figure out what to do. It's some action. Whereas the reason L.A. just keeps growing and growing in the homeless department is there's no imperative. Like, nothing ever really happens, It's
just like you were talking about at the beginning of the show on a micro scale. Like, I have everything I need. Like, they're fine. There's no ice storms.
Yeah, something's going to have to happen. What else, Gina Grad?
Well, this is an ever-changing and evolving story, but we must talk about it. So if it's a little out of date by tomorrow, my apologies. The NBA's players have decided to resume the playoffs, according to a source at ESPN. Discussions are underway when teams will play. Now, of course, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. In the wake of the Jacob Blake shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the Milwaukee Bucks were the first ones to kick this off. They led a protest Wednesday that resulted in a postponement of games all day. Later in the day, baseball teams that were scheduled to play also decided to walk off the field, including the Brewers, the Reds, the Dodgers, Giants. The WNBA also postponed 3 games. Major League Soccer postponed. Everyone but NHL, I think. They played on. Nike expressed...
Can I say this?
Yeah.
For anyone listening, all the guys killed at the hands of the police were huge soccer fans. Massive soccer fans. That I know. So...
I did not realize
they wouldn't care for the NBA. Many of them, not baseball guys, but they were all soccer guys. So if you're listening and you're thinking about going back onto that field, understand the love everyone who's ever died at the hands of police has had for soccer, especially. So
you're saying they should sit it out for as long as possible?
Well, obviously, you have to pay homage to the fans that have passed,
right.
And these men and women were all massive soccer fans. So just
Understood.
Keep that in mind when you wrestle morally with going back onto that extended field you play on for a time limit of who knows. But either way, when you're lighting up the scoreboard with a grand total of 2.5 goals scored over 17 hours, remember Every time you kick one of those balls in the net, you're besmirching the memory of one of these Americans that was taken before their time by the hands of the police. Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah.
Good words.
Mm-hmm.
So, and by the way,
and as far as women's softball goes, well, the same math applies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to show you a clip in a second, but just sort of I don't know if it's a moral, ethical question. The Dodgers and the Giants taking the night off in protest. Does it count when you play a doubleheader the next day, when you just backload it?
Oh, no. Yeah.
That's what most teams did.
That doesn't. I feel like you're flying in the face. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't count. It doesn't count. You can't. Well, everyone's going to make it up. I mean, the NBA is going to play the game they were going to play yesterday, today, or however it works. But when you play a doubleheader, you're literally just making it up. Right.
Agreed. But that might not be true for the Lakers and the Clippers. Because they really, they took sort of, I guess people are saying it's a vote. It doesn't seem to be a vote. It was more like an informal poll. And the Lakers and the Clippers said, hell no. And then LeBron James walked out of the meeting and many players followed him. So they could be done. Again, this news is ever evolving. So we'll see, in the next day or two. But they literally could be done. Kenny Smith also took a stand in the middle of NBA on TNT, and he walked off the set on Wednesday. The broadcast was slated as a pregame programming ahead of the Oklahoma City Thunder and Houston Rockets. And Smith, who's a longtime TNT analyst, 10-year NBA veteran, he kind of spoke as he started taking his stuff off and taking his mic off and explained his reasoning here.
I think the biggest thing now is to kind of, as a black man, as a former player, I think it's best for me to support the players and just not be here tonight.
So unhooked his mic.
And figure out what happens after that. I just don't feel equipped to do that.
Shaq and Barkley, uncomfortable.
Yeah, uncomfortable.
Shaq won't look at him.
Powerful statement. Everyone's making a powerful statement. Were we just talking about this? All right, everyone make your powerful statement and we'll see what happens. All right.
But the one thing that I think is very sort of, we should note that when everyone was afraid that Kaepernick stan, Nike wasn't going to support it. Well, now we know there's a precedent set and Nike gets on board. So Nike put out a statement immediately saying Nike stands in support of NBA and WNBA players and athletes across the sports community in the response to the senseless shooting of Jacob Blake. So that's a response you can count on at this point.
Right. But you can't get up and walk out if you're talking about anything to do with China, because then Nike's got a little different take on the human rights and abuse. All right, look, it's all pretty transparent. For some people, it's a virtue thing. For other people, it's a money thing. God bless you. Have fun, everybody. Now,
we'll keep you posted.
I will say this about baseball. It's funny. I've never thought about this angle of baseball, but I always used to say that I didn't look at baseball as quite the sport that the NBA or, the NBA or the NFL, because I would always go, if you go to the sidelines of an NFL game, people are breathing off an oxygen mask while defensive coordinators showing them a tablet and frantically pointing at stuff, and the quarterback's getting yelled at by this coach, and the guy's got the headset on and he's up in the tower and he's up in the booth and he's calling out whatever. And then you go to the sidelines of a baseball game, and the guy's like making a pyramid out of sunflower seed husks, and the other guy's putting his hat on inside out. Everyone's kind of sitting around watching, And I used to use that as an example, but better example, the double header. Because
can you imagine?
There's no such thing as a double header of football, and there's no such thing as a double header of basketball. I mean, you can't. It's just too vigorous a sport. It's too high impact. It's too draining. You could never turn around and just run that court again for the same amount of time. In football, these guys, I mean, they barely sign off on. They don't even want, someone goes, we're going to go from a 16-game season to a 17-game season. They go, not physically possible. Like they're they're fighting
for that.
tooth and nail for 17 games. Baseball is the only sport where you go, just do another one. Play those.
We'll make it up tomorrow.
Yeah. By the way, the same guy pitched doesn't have to pitch twice, and the other guy can pitch, and then you just go about your business.
I know very little about the ins and outs business-wise of any of these associations, but we had Matt Money Smith on last night, and he was saying there is no way in hell, I believe I'm quoting him accurately, there is no way in hell that baseball will do any kind of boycott. Like, like the season's off. Like that doesn't no baseball. Like we were talking about the Dodgers. And he said, how many more games are they going to sit out? He's like, no, it doesn't. They're not doing that.
The Dodgers
There's too much money.
Dodgers are tearing it up, right?
Yep.
Are they?
Getting ready for that inevitable playoff collapse.
I mean, they are, I don't know, I saw like 18-4 or something, like something crazy. Like
22-8, I think.
Something big, something good. I mean, they're really.
Yeah, they're 22-9.
22-9.
That's right. Giants had a walk-off.
Oh, yeah. All right, what else we got, Gina Grad?
We have more Falwell news. I don't think this story is going away anytime soon either. Another Miami man claims to have had a personal relationship with Becky Falwell, that's Jerry Falwell Jr.'s lady, and even sued the family last year over his stake in their LGBTQ-friendly hostel. Did not know that. And that's the business when they said that the Giancarlo Granda kid, that's the business that he's in. He was running that hostel. So according to the Daily Mail...
Jerry was so committed to that business, he visited almost every night.
That's funny.
Do they have an LGBTQ hostel? I thought they were.
Hostel.
Weren't they against that stuff? I don't know. I don't know how religion works anymore.
I don't either.
Can I tell you something? When I was a kid, it was super easy. There was like religious people and non-religious people. And the religious people pretty much looked at the Bible and told everyone they would go to hell. And, you couldn't have sex out of wedlock or use the Lord's name in vain. And that was about it. We didn't have all this IHOP, this International House of Pancakes of, the Shiites or the Sunnis these are Sikhs.
Yeah.
The Sikhs are different than the Muslims. It's like, we didn't know shit. There were barely Jews. It was about
are you evangelical Christian or are you nothing?
That guy goes to church. That guy's nothing. Those weird people are Jews. That's all we had. That's all we had. We didn't have to. We didn't have Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons. They didn't even make it over here. Forget about all this stuff stuff out of the Middle East and that kind of stuff. We didn't have to break down the game film on what everyone could do. If you're basically an atheist or an agnostic, my family, then you could do whatever you wanted. And then if you were religious, you couldn't be gay. But we didn't know about all the Unitarians and stuff like that. Where it's like, oh no, this guy's a priest, but he's gay. Like they didn't have all that stuff. It was a simpler, easier time. It's like, do you want to drive a Chevy or a Ford? There's no Daihatsu. This is a Daihatsu type situation. Is that a good car? Don't know. Too many choices. I have no idea. I thought these guys were evangelicals. Why do they have the gay youth hostel for?
Yeah.
Confusing.
Well, I think Brian alluded to why they might have it, but I'm not sure. So according to the Daily Mail, he's urged the pool boy to speak out against the family and tell the full truth, though he didn't go into detail what the full truth is. So this dude is Gordon Bello, and he sued Jerry Falwell Jr. last year over his stake in the hostel that the family invested in and Giancarlo runs, the pool boy. In his most recent claims against the couple, Granda alleged that Jerry once sent him a photograph of a Liberty University student exposing herself on the family's farm. He claims that Jerry's a predator, and Granda and Bello are high school friends. In 2017, Bello filed a lawsuit against the Falwells, claiming his father, who was a builder, gave them the idea for the hostel that they bought and went into business with Granda. So it's heating up. It's a sordid tale, and I'm sure there will be more.
There's too many sordid tales now. Can't keep track of all the sordid tales. And I'm trying to think, when I was a kid, what the big, I don't know. It was like, we have secret recordings of Richard Nixon, and he says the word shit. It was like, all right. It seems weird seeing Richard Nixon cussing. You know what I mean? Like the big stuff that would be having people cuss, like literally catching.
Yeah.
It was right up there with knowing a school teacher's first name. It was a big deal when I was
seeing their house.
Yeah, or where they lived, or seeing them out in the wild somewhere or something. Now it just feels like there's so many scandals out there. I don't even know where to even begin. Well, you know what I mean? You don't even.
So Watergate did happen when you were 10.
Yeah, I was a kid. Oh no, I mean Watergate's a scandal, but I just mean like playing the recordings.
Yeah,
I mean it was a scandal, but I'm saying. The salacious stuff was like hearing somebody cuss. You know
well, you're
I mean?
right. And to that point, like think of, is it the Orson Welles one, and like the Colonel Sanders, in the middle of a voiceover session, and they're cursing, and it's the greatest, it's the funniest, it's hysterical, and now you get a hot mic and people go to prison.
Casey Kasem.
Coming out of a dead dog story.
The dead dog story. I mean, that's all we had is that kind of stuff.
Beat tempos.
And I think it was, I'm going to look to Dawson for this one. Was it Buddy Rich on the tour bus? That was a good one. Fucking yelling
There's also
at everybody.
Who was the one who was going to unleash the fury in first class? Dawson might know. I will unleash the fucking fury.
Oh, in first class?
Yeah, it was a rock star. It was a Lemmy type.
Oh, we'll try to.
I have no idea, but I'll look.
Dawson's confused, but Buddy Rich, the drummer, was on a tour bus, like fucking yelling at everyone in his band. I mean, it was to me inspirational.
They're going to say uncomfortable.
He's basically saying, "Hey, you fuck up again. You make me look bad. I'll fucking throw you all off in Peoria." Like it was awesome.
Brian, I think you're thinking of Yngwie Malmsteen. That sounds.
Yeah, what band was he in? He's a rock and roller, heavy metal type, and he was woken up, who passed out drunk in first class on a long, transatlantic flight, and someone woke him up, and his tirade includes, "I will unleash the fucking fury."
As far as I know, Yngwie Malmsteen is Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yeah, he's just his own.
I thought he was in a band.
And what you're describing, Adam, I could name a few off the top of my head who have done that to a lot of their musicians.
Well,
I'm looking for Buddy Rich right now.
Buddy Guy is different than Buddy. Yeah, Buddy Guy's the guitar. Buddy Rich is the drummer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Buddy Rich cursing out his band on a tour bus is awesome. It's funny because you think jazz drummer, you think the most laid back guys in the world, right? Nobody's smoother than a jazz drummer. Like, no, in terms of their affect, that's the coolest dude in the room, right? Not so much. Yeah, not so much. All right, well, let's do one more, and maybe Dawson will find that.
All right, let's see here. Let's find a good one. Oh, so I'll show you a fun little video. An 11-year-old girl in Ontario, Canada, broke a Guinness Book of World Record when she solved a 30 Rubik's Cubes one-handed while hula hooping. Her name is Sankavi Rathan. We have video. And she solved 30 of the puzzles with one hand while keeping a hula hoop moving around her body, beating the previous record of 25. The record took Rathan less than an hour to break. And this is talk about overcoming. She said the record was ideal for her because she has limited mobility in her other hand. So this is something she was just going to do to work on it. And she's hula hooping and she's solving it, and it's one-handed.
Let me say this, Whitey. The Indians, they were destroying us in spelling bees, obviously dominating. Now the hula hoop, Rubik's Cube. The spelling bee, I thought, okay, fine. That's purely mental. You know what I mean? It's not physical. They can't take us physically. They can take us mentally with all their word spelling. But physically,
but not with their dexterity.
We still got the upper hand. Between the spelling and the hula hooping and the one-handed Rubik's Cube, meet your new overlords. This is it, people. We're going to be outsourced. Whitey's going to be outsourced. You understand?
There's a reason that God has like 18 arms. He's fucking hiding in plain sight.
That's right. Think how many Rubik's Cubes Rushdie or whatever Kutsunu or whatever his name is could do. Sushku. Eliza Dushku. The point is this. I'm going to start sucking up to these people now. I'm not waiting. I'm not going to be like one of these businesses that throws up the Black Lives Matter flag, late into the game so I won't get torched. I'm doing it early. And often.
Get early, yeah.
I'm getting in. I'm buying low and selling high with the Indian stock.
What? Wasn't that a Simpsons quote? I, for one, welcome our new overlords.
Yes, it was.
Kent Brockman,
yeah. Do you have Buddy Rich?
What the fuck do you think is going on here? You had too many fucking days off and you think this is the game? You think I'm the only one who's going to work up there while you motherfuckers sit out there and clam all over this fucking joint? What do you think this is, anyhow? What kind of plane do you think this is? What kind of miscues do you call this? What fucking bed do you think you're playing on, motherfuckers? You want to fuck with me on the bandstand? Shut that fucking door. I'm up there working my balls off, trying to do somebody a favor, and you motherfuckers are sucking all over this joint. What kind of trumpet section do you call it tonight? And saxophones? You've got to fucking be kidding me. How dare you call yourselves professional? Assholes are playing like fucking children up there. You got your... Where the fuck are you? Think you won't be heard? Everybody can hear your fucking clams out there. You don't need a mic for that. You taking up too much fucking time? Blowing what? Shit! You stand out here all fucking night trying to blow your fucking brains out and they come trying to play. What do you play? Clams? You got nowhere to fucking go to next day because if I hear one fucking clam from anybody, you've had it. One clam, and this whole fucking band is through tonight. Try me.
He goes on for another minute.
Yeah, all right, we got it.
It's fantastic.
Play this kind of shit for me?
I'll tell you.
Fuck all of you.
Fuck all of you. Into his band. How long would he have lasted in the Fugees? I say one summer max.
Yeah.
Max. One European tour max. I don't believe they'd re-up when the Fugees went back out on their Asian tour the next year, right? I'm just picking a band, but yeah.
I put in Buddy Rich, and I was about to put in Buddy Rich audio, and the first thing that comes up is Buddy Rich mean.
Well, who's got a less apt name? The Randy Couture UFC killer or Buddy? Buddy screaming at everybody in his band.
Yeah. Came as a shock to everyone.
Yeah. Also, I do sympathize with Buddy because I'll tell you what happens is I've told you guys about this. Maybe you've experienced it to some degree, but it's like you're up there playing and he's doing what he's doing and everyone around him, like there's the guy you said, hey, you need to work harder on this or practice more. You're kind of missing this or you're not hitting that. And then you're on stage and he starts missing it, right? And in any other form of life, you'd like stop and get up and go, hey, man, remember we talked about that shit? But you have to keep smiling and playing, and you're smiling and playing. And the concert's going on for an hour and a half, and you hear this person like fucking up, and there's this interest. Then when you get off stage, there's this interest that builds up. Like when we used to do, like, I'd always remember, like, if we were doing like a man show bit and we were doing the walkthrough and they had the thing where you pulled the thing and the thing would happen and I'd go, oh, it doesn't work right. We need to fix this and we need to do that. And then when you'd go out on stage for the live taping and it wouldn't work and you'd have to like smile and laugh, but you're thinking, I'm going to kill that guy. We talked about this. And then you'd go through the whole bit and then the other thing wouldn't work very well. And when you got off the stage, you were always at 110%. Like it was never... You don't realize that when shit happens and you can address it as it goes, it evens you out a little bit. Buddy was probably playing an hour plus long gig thinking, I'm going to kill these guys from minute one. And that's what we heard because he's a dear, dear friend. And I never met the man, but he was I don't know, what would he be? Top 5 drummer of all time? Or where would he be on those power rankings? I mean, he was
lots would make the argument for number 1.
Number 1.
Yeah, I'm seeing an interview with one of his bandmates, and he said that Buddy would threaten the audience.
Also, in a world where you got to record stuff reel to reel, like back, and there's no more hit the thing on your phone. Now no big whoop to secretly record anybody. You're recording Buddy Rich back then. You got to get a boom mic. You got to get an engineer. You got to get the reel to reel 8-track.
The fucking conversation.
Yeah, I mean, what year was that from? Does it say what year, Dawson? All right. You bring it home, Gina Grad. And we'll
you got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
That was the news with Gina